What's up guys, Taylor here. I would like to welcome you back to Dreadscar Rift, where we're in part 2 of our series looking at Destruction Warlocks. In this part we are going to be looking at the PvE talents and PvP talents that will be coming to Destruction Warlocks in World of Warcraft Legion. Before we get into it, I would like to kind of explain something about how I'm doing these talents. I'm kind of treating them as brand new talent trees. You're going to see here and there some of the same talents that you have in Warlords of Draenor, some of them combined. You may even see entire tiers that return, but for the most part, they mostly feel they've been changed a lot across all of the different specs that I feel like I can present them as new talent trees. So yes, there will be many similar talents returning, but I'm going to be presenting them as brand new talent trees. So with that, let's go ahead and get straight into the PvE talents for a Destruction Warlock. Let's pull them up right here. In this first 15 tier, we have one of the abilities that was taken away from baseline Destruction Warlocks, that is Backdraft. It functions mostly the same, maybe a little bit different, but its intent is still the same. Casting Conflagrate reduces the cast time of Incinerate and Chaos Bolt by 30% for 5 seconds. Your second talent is Roaring Blaze. Conflagrate increases your remaining Immolate damage on the target by 50% until Immolate expires or is refreshed. And then your third in this tree is good old Shadow Burn. One of the talents, or one of the abilities that was baseline, that has been brought back in the form of a talent just like Backdraft, and that is Shadow Burn. It costs 1 Soul Shard, blasts the target for 72,000 damage, and it will generate 2 Soul Shards if the target dies within 5 seconds. So it's meant to be somewhat of a finisher, or it is most effective when used as a finisher. All the talents in this tree are somewhat kind of a burst potential a little bit. Backdraft more in the fact that you're able to cast more in less time. But for the most part, Blizzard has gotten rid of the kind of talent trees that are, like each tier has a certain theme. Blizzard's kind of shifted away from that. They no longer want that to be the case. There will be some that are like that, some of these tiers that are like that, but for the most part, they're not too worried about making sure that each one has like a certain theme to it. On our 30 tier, we have Reverse Entropy, reduces the cast time of Chaos Bolt and Rain of Fire by 0.5 seconds, and they restore 35% of your maximum mana. So you have a little bit of mana, a little bit of reduction in your mana costs overall with Reverse Entropy. Remember that Rain of Fire now does have a 2-second cast instead of an instant cast, so that is why 0.5 seconds are being taken off there. Our second one is Cataclysm. This works exactly as it does on live. It's just now a 30 talent instead of a 100 talent, so a great change there. And it still looks the same. I'll use it right here, you can see. Still the same. Works exactly the same, and it applies Immolate to all of the targets in question, which is very important because you remember Immolate is a very good producer of Soul Shards, and as you can see right here, my Soul Shards are just kind of going up just because of one Cataclysm. Kind of hard to hit it off multiple targets in PvP, but in PvE it's going to be very effective at giving you a nice big boost to your Soul Shard reserves. The third ability is Mana Tap. You consume 40% of your current mana to grant 10% increased damage for 20 seconds. So if you kind of take that and combine it with Life Tap, which Destruction Warlocks now have back, you kind of have the double tap. You can call it the double tap, where you Life Tap. Basically, for the cost of 10% of your mana and 10% of your health, you get 10% increased damage overall. So that's something to think about. In the 45 tier, we have Demonic Skin. Your Soul Leech Absorption now passively recharges at a rate of 1%, 1% of maximum health every 1 second, and may now absorb up to 20% of your maximum health. Now, if you didn't hear in the last video, Soul Leech is a new passive that is dedicated to destruction. It was a talent originally, now it is now baseline. Gives you more of kind of some sustainability out there, and instead of it being 15%, which is the baseline, now you have up to 20% with this Demon Skin passive. Mortal Coil works exactly the same. It is the same as it is on live. You return the same amount of your health. Everything works the same. So it's back. It's now just 15 levels later. And then Shadow Fury is back with a few changes. It now has a 1.39 second cast, or whatever it is reduced. I'm assuming it's 1.5 standard. 1.5 second cast, which can be pretty detrimental in PvP. So I don't know how much people are going to like using this. It does stun for an extra second, but I really don't know if that's worth the extra having the cast time on top of that. In the previous video I talked about increasing your sustain, specifically in PvP, and I was talking about, I meant to be talking about Shadow Fury when I believe I said many times Shadow Burn, but Shadow Fury is the one that will stun people and get targets off of you, which is now back, but like I said once again, I don't know if people are going to be really liking the 1.5 second cast, or 1.39 second cast time that is attached to it now. On the 60 tier, we have Eradication. Your Chaos Bolt increases damage you deal to a target by 12% for 6 seconds. I am really not a big fan of anything that is an upkeep item, and this really feels like an upkeep item, an upkeep spell. So, you know, making sure that you have that Chaos Bolt damage increase, making sure that you have the 12% damage increase every 6 seconds, it would be really irritating to me. It may come really easy with a rotation that is set up, but that really, what can I say? All I can say is that I really dislike anything that resembles a type of upkeep, even though this isn't anywhere near as bad as something like Slice and Dice, or I believe Savage Roar for Feral Druids. It's still upkeep. Upkeep is upkeep, and I hate upkeep. Fire and Brimstone is your second one. This is the third ability, I believe, that has been taken off of the baseline for Destruction Warlocks and put into a talent tree. The difference is that this now hits all targets no matter what. I believe this was something that you had to activate for it to actually work. Now it's just passive. It always works. I'll use it. Go ahead and use it right here. Just cast Incinerate a few times and you will see it'll fire off to everyone no matter what. So I wonder if I can hit that fourth one on the right hand side. Probably not. But yeah, it now hits everyone, so that is something that is returned to the lineup for if you decide to take it at a level 60 talent. I cannot remember if they removed or kept the fact that you could use Fire and Brimstone with Chaos Bolt, but you will no longer, even if they haven't removed it, it has now been removed. This only applies to Incinerate. The last talent here is Soul Harvest. Soul Harvest increases the damage of you and your pets' damage by 20%. Lasts 10 seconds. It increases for 2 seconds for each target afflicted by your Imolate up to a maximum of 30 seconds. So if you have 15, different Imolates going on, which generally I would expect to only be occurring if you had launched Cataclysm with a lot of mobs, you will have a 30-second length, or I guess you should say a 40-second length on that duration for a 2-minute cooldown. Your next tier, this is the fourth item that has been stripped from a Destruction Warlock and now brought into a talent tree. This is Demonic Circle. It functions exactly the way it does on live. Burning Rush is the exact same as it is in the talent tree, the level 60 talent tree back on live. It works exactly the same. Dark Pact, a little bit different. Its name on live is known as Sacrificial Pact in the 45 tier, but it does function exactly the same as it does on live. So Dark Pact and Sacrificial Pact, exact same. However, different tiers, a little bit mixing things up. In the 90 tier, we have our Grimoires. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A little bit different here, a little bit exciting. So we have Grimoire of Supremacy. Grimoire of Supremacy on the old version used to be just a damage buff for your demons. This time, Grimoire of Supremacy now adds in Demonic Servitude, which was the 100 talent available to a Destruction Warlock. It is now basically Demonic Servitude. You're able to maintain control over even greater demons, indefinitely allowing you to summon a Doomguard, a Doomguard or Infernal as a permanent pet. You have Grimoire of Service. which summons a second demon that fights you for 25 seconds and deals 100% increased damage. This is exactly the same as it is on live, except for it now has a 1.5 minute cooldown as opposed to a 2-minute cooldown. And then last we have Grimoire of Sacrifice. You will sacrifice your demon to gain demonic power, causing your spells to sometimes deal 32,000 shadow damage to your target and other enemies to the target and other enemies within 8 yards. Lasts 1 hour or until you summon a demon. Now that has changed a little bit. You no longer have the regeneration of maximum health. And when you sacrifice your demon, it's just a buff to your damage instead of it being certain spells that are affected, etc. No, it's just a straight, buff to your damage across the board. Now remember, this can be augmented through your Scepter of Sargeras. I believe it's called, yes, Impish Incineration. Your Grimoire of Supremacy, which was the first one in that tier, increases the damage double your Doom Guard's Doom Bolt by 18%, which is helpful for your Destruction Warlock. And then Grimoire of Sacrifice, Demonic Power damage is increased by 50%. So yes, even your Artifact Weapon could even help your talents in certain cases. In this case, these two Grimoires on the bookends of the Grimoire talent tree. Last, we have the last 100 tree here. All three of these are brand new, and I really like this one. I kind of alluded to this in the first video. Wreck Havoc. Havoc now lasts 20 seconds and has no cooldown, so you have a reverse beacon of light now. Basically, as long as you keep refreshing it every 20 seconds, you will always be able to hit a second target with whatever ability you are casting. Doesn't matter the ability you are casting. Which makes it really powerful, especially if you're in, a raid with only like 2 or 3 mobs. This is probably going to be what everyone's taking, just because of the potency of this. No longer does Wreck Havoc only work with a certain amount of spells. It works on a time base. It normally is 8 seconds. With this, it is now 20 seconds, and it works with Chaos Bolts indefinitely, so you can just launch off as many Chaos Bolts as you want, and it will hit 2 targets, which is great. The second one here is Channel Demon Fire, which launches 15 bolts of Fellfire over 2.8 seconds at random targets afflicted by your immortal Immolate within 40 yards. Each bolt deals 11,000 fire damage. This is one of the most visually underwhelming spells that is given to you, and I don't know how its damage is going to actually compare. Blizzard is still kind of moving and shifting with their damage numbers, but I'll go ahead and show this to you. I'm just going to use Cataclysm to pop Immolate on everyone, and then I'll use Channel Demon Fire. As you can see, it just flies out to all the different targets. So, not sure how that's going to stack up on the DPS meters, but that is a great AoE ability, especially if you use it in conjunction with something like Cataclysm, and then on top of that you use, I've already forgotten the ability, I believe it's Soul Harvest. On top of that, you'll be able to dish out a lot of damage if you're talking about AoE damage in maybe a raid setting. The last ability here is Soul Conduit. Every soul shard you spend has a 20% chance to be refunded. This can be very useful, and I can see this being the most popular PvP talent to take. Yes, even though we're in the PvE tier, all PvPers, have access to all of these talents, and so this is most likely the one that they will be going to be looking at, especially since Chaos Bolt already has that chance to refund one of its 2 soul shards that it uses. This will allow it to refund both of them. So that's a lot more burst damage that you're going to be able to put out as a Destruction Warlock. So that is everything for the PvE talents for Destruction Warlock. Let's go ahead and look at the Honor talents, the PvP talents. The first tier for every spec that I've seen, I believe this is the same, is going to be kind of a trinket tier. So you're automatically given something called an Honorable Medallion, which is your new PvP trinket. At the beginning, I think the first time you go into a BG, that's when you give it, and it's a 3-minute cooldown PvP trinket. You can take Gladiator's Medallion, which basically cuts the cooldown down to 2 minutes, so it's up to you. The second one here is Adaptation. All loss of control effects with a duration of 5 seconds or more will activate your honorable medallion spell, but only causes it to incur a 60-second cooldown. I kind of like this. Um, it I like it a little bit more because it gives you that 60-second cooldown option, but then you kind of have to be more cautious of when you use your honorable medallion in case you need to use it for something else, because then it will incur the 3-minute cooldown, and then adaptation will be on cooldown for 3 minutes. So you have to be careful there. The third talent option is Relentless. It replaces your Honorable Medallion, and the duration of incoming crowd control effects is reduced by 25%. I really honestly only see tanks taking this option, but I could be wrong, but it is one of the options open to you if you decide to take it. Now, do know that when you're leveling up, the PvP system now works like Call of Duty Prestige system, in that you start at, level 1 and you build up level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 50, and then you can prestige. And as you're leveling up, you'll start leveling up these abilities all the way down. Like this is 1, 4, 7, 10. I'm not quite sure of the numbers, but just think of it that way. You're going to be leveling up down this row, then down this row, then down this row. 50 being the end. So if you really like a lot of the abilities over in this row, especially down, towards the bottom and the right of this, in the right of the talent tree, you're not really going to want to prestige too much unless you want to be the ultimate grinder out there and get everything that you possibly can. In the second tier, we have Train of Thought. Damage is increased by 15%. Being attacked will cancel this effect for 8 seconds. You have Mind Quickness, increases haste by 6%. And then lastly, you have Initiation. Critical chance of your damaging abilities and attacks increased by 30% on targets at or above 80% health. Honestly, as a Destruction Warlock, I probably will be choosing this one just because this means more soul shards. In your third tier, you have Curse of Tongues. So your curses are making a comeback in this tier. You have Curse of Tongues. We haven't seen these, I think, for maybe an expansion, maybe 2 expansions, I can't remember. Forces the target to speak in demonic, increasing their casting time of all spells by 30% for 10 seconds. I love that. I will be using that. If I ever get my Warlock back up again, this is what I would use. Curse of Weakness reduces the target's physical damage dealt by 25% for 10 seconds. And then there is Curse of Fragility. Reduces the target's maximum health by 20%. So you basically get to pick where your weak point is. You're weak against tanks, you got fragility. You're weak against melee, you got weakness, and you're weak against casters, you have Curse of Tongues. So it's kind of, pick and choose which one you're really having difficulty with, and then you can go from there. On the next tier, we have Essence Drain. Whenever you heal yourself with Drain Life, the enemy target deals 10% reduced damage to you for 6 seconds. It stacks up to 5 times. So this really makes Drain Life, that sustain that you have now had returned to you in Legion, even more useful in PvP. You're able to at least get a lot of your health back and reduce a lot of the incoming damage coming. You have Casting Circle. Summons a casting circle for 20 seconds. While within this casting circle, you are immune to silences and interrupts. This can be very useful for destruction. That really counts on having a lot of those cast times, especially Chaos Bolt, which is significantly long for a cast ability. Not have to worry about it. And instead, you can just stand inside your casting circle and fire away. And then lastly, there's Nether Ward. Surrounds the caster, with a shield that lasts for 5 seconds, reflecting all harmful spells cast at you. So I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Warlocks had that in the past at some point, in a different name possibly, but you have a spell reflect now. So that is a talent that is open to you. On the 5th tier, we have Incineration. Incinerate refreshes the duration of your Immolate, so if you're sticking to a target, as long as you're using Incinerate, you no longer have to worry about refreshing Immolate. There's Fell Fissure. Chaos Bolt creates an eruption of fell fire under the target, dealing shadow damage every 1 second and reducing all healing received by 50% for 10 seconds to all enemies within 5 yards of the initial target. Now, with how hectic things are in PvP, I don't know how advantageous. The AoE will be on that, but definitely the single target benefits are definitely going to be beneficial in terms of reducing the healing. In the last ability here, we have Cremation. Conflagrate deals an additional 6% damage on the target's total health and fire damage, but now consumes the Immolate. Not sure how I like that one. I'm not a big fan of reapplying abilities or abilities that consume stuff and then forcing me to reapply, but it is an option there for you. In the last tier, we have Burning Legion. The cooldown of Summon Infernal is reduced by 2 minutes, but the duration is reduced by 10 seconds. In addition, Summon Infernal can now be used in Arena. So, I believe in the last video I talked about the possibility of having Infernals and Doom Guards in Arena. It seems like you have to have this talent for that to actually work, to have an Infernal specifically in an Arena. By the way, this reduces that cooldown now down to 1 minute. You have a 1 minute Infernal cooldown, and then when you pair that with your artifact weapon, which I'm not quite sure whether or not artifact weapons abilities will be usable in arenas and rated PvP or not, but if you were to combine that with the ability to summon all the extra Infernals that you can, that would be a very potent combination. We have Firestone, restores 2 soul shards and increases your spell critical strike chance by 100% for 7 seconds. So that's a nice boost. If you're kind of depleted, that's what you're able to use. And then last is Bane of Havoc. It replaces Havoc. Curses the ground with Demonic Bane, causing all of your single target spells to also strike targets marked with this Bane. So in the chance that everyone seems to be bunched up, this is what you can use. But honestly, I just don't see this being very popular. I just don't like it when AoE ground targeted abilities just don't necessarily, in my opinion, have a great effect inside PvP. And so for this to actually to be pulled off with I guess some efficiency would take some skill, and there are always more skilled players out there. But I don't know. I would probably see either Burning Legion or Firestone being taken by a Destruction Warlock. But that is all of the talents that are available, both PvE and PvP, to a Destruction Warlock in Warlords of, not Warlords of Draenor. We're in World of Warcraft Legion now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. While Destruction got very little in terms of their changed abilities, changed look, what it actually looks like, or their abilities, like their visual effects. Some classes got amazing visual effects upgrades, sound upgrades. Destruction Warlock got very little. While they got a lot, Destruction Warlock got very little. However, they did gain a great amount of sustain. I apologize that I cannot show you. It would be very difficult to show you the PvP talents. That would require me to be in actual PvP combat, which is a less controlled setting, which makes it very difficult to kind of narrate and show you these abilities one by one. But overall, I was able to show you most of everything, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be working on the next class overview, and I hope to see you guys in that one. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Teal us out.